How fast could I actually get if I optimize my running form? Recently, I've been getting into running, but one thing I've been dealing with are injuries. Two biggest ones were lower back pain and ankle pain, especially when I'm trying to run a lot of mileage per week. At first, I thought maybe I'm overtraining or I'm just heavier than the average person my height. But then I realized maybe it's my running form. And a lot of you in the comments have been like, hey man, you're heel striking, that's bad running form. I get it. So let's go get it fixed. We are here at RunLab Austin, and I'm about to do two different tests right now, a running mechanics test and a metabolic test. So we're gonna go in and see what the entire process is, what I'm gonna learn about my running and how I run. Yeah, this is kind of the first stage to, I think I'm gonna run a marathon. I'm not gonna race a marathon, but I'm gonna run a marathon. So this is the first step of many. Welcome to the marathon training journey. Nice to meet you.
Welcome in. I was looking at your intake form. We are dealing with an active injury.
Now it doesn't hurt right now, just because I haven't been running for like 2 weeks. I've published a lot of videos on my running on YouTube, and people have commented, your running form is bad.
I did my homework on you, so I looked at some of those videos. So I have some ideas already of maybe some stuff that may be going on. All right, so I want to look at hammy length first. So keeping your knees straight, I want you to actively bring that up as high as you can. The very first thing that we did was go into this room to do kind of like a body and mobility test. The entire goal was to understand how my body's operating as a system, right? If there's kind of instability from one side to another, how is that impacting the overall system when I'm running? If my left glute is not working as well when I'm on one leg, my right hip is more likely to drop because this glute is not pulling my hip and stabilizing.
What does crunchy mean? Is that good or bad?
Generally, you don't like crunches. If it is massively compressed because the quad is overactivating, now instead of sliding and gliding, it hits and goes.
Oh no.
Again, you don't have knee pain. We want to make sure you don't get knee pain.
Okay.
I'm going to have you strut down the hallway for a minute with your shoes off.
Call me a Victoria's Secret model.
There's your runway. Halfway down one more time.
How's my walking form?
Horrible.
Really?
No, it's not too bad. Big toe is a little stiffer on your right foot than your left foot. You require about 60 degrees of toe extension to get a normal terminal stance moment.
Yeah.
And so if you can't achieve that, well, if you can't use your toe, it's got to translate somewhere in the body, right? It's about Newton's laws, like energy is never lost, it's transferred.
Yeah.
It's transferred into your ankle.
Okay. I realized that my left hip abductor is weak and I'm lacking glute activation. My quads are potentially overactivating and my right big toe is stiffer than my left. So it's not as flexible in terms of trying to wiggle it up and down. Once we had this first analysis complete, the next step was to go on the treadmill. They want me shirtless. I'm a little embarrassed. They asked me to be shirtless so that way they can really see all of my biomechanics when running. And we did 3 tests, one barefoot, one with my shoes on at kind of an easy-ish pace, and then one a bit faster. They had these super slow-mo cameras measuring me at all different angles. And the goal was to understand how do my legs, my foot, and my hips all work as a system when I'm running at these different paces and with or without shoes. You have a greater angle of approach with your left versus your right? You can see it. Yeah. Think of it like an airplane landing, so the more turbulence, the more work all the supporting structures have to get. Right, so I'm looking at this medial ankle bone. How far does it translate in? And you can even see the crease on that lateral aspect, right? Form. So it's a little excessive, right? But this is one component, right? It's not about a singularity. It's about all of the things combining that are stressing it. This point where you're swinging forward and you're about to hit the ground. You have a very, very straight leg. It's creating almost a braking mechanism when you run. So you're braking, accelerating, versus I go out and then I pull underneath me. Well, some of you in the comments are sort of right. Yes, I do heel strike, but I think the focus is to think about it as an overall system, not about how the foot lands, but how your leg lands. My stride is too long and I'm stopping, going. I'm actually using more energy to run than I need to. According to Dr. Rhoden, he was able to run the same pace at 20 beats per minute slower. So that just means if you're running long distances, you can last way longer. Your capacity for growth amplifies when you're efficient versus you're getting in your own way. They shipped off this footage to another one of their experts, and we jumped on a call about a week later.
Right, so again, as you land, you see how your hips are level, and then you see this left hip shift down as you're coming into this position as your foot's underneath you. If you can decrease the overstride, control these first two things we talked about with the loading response, it's going to take stress off the hip.
Potentially because of the lack of mobility and strength and lack of activation of certain muscles in certain points, my hips are kind of dropping. That could cause lower back pain, as well as creating more pressure on certain points of my body. So I was given a couple exercises.
Right cheek, left cheek. left cheek, right cheek. So this is what we call like an isolated drill. So I'm trying to activate it in a one particular phase of your gait cycle. Drill number 2 is thinking about like a horse pawing at the ground. It's super awkward.
This is hard.
So this is trying to drive that mechanic of keeping you underneath your body when you're running.
And the goal was that these exercises are going to help me activate my glutes when I'm landing my foot, really draw back when I'm running to create that kind of cyclic feel with my legs, and aim to land my leg right in line with my chest rather than out in front of me, as well as slightly leaning forward when I run. So these are all exercises I've been trying to do on the daily. It is challenging, right? Mentally, there's a lot of thought that requires. So I was told baby steps, don't try to do all of it at once. It's like slowly working my way towards optimizing my running.
This was your first one.
Yep.
Right? Same speed, how far out your foot is landing versus you're getting a little more underneath you. Again, not perfect yet, right? First evolution. Every 2 minutes, I want you to focus on this for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Driving my knees up a little higher. And then just run. Don't think high knees the whole time. It'll mess you up.
And what was really fascinating is potentially the shoes that I wear can also impact how I run. So they did give me a recommendation that my shoes should have a 4 to 8 millimeter heel drop and a variety of other recommendations listed right here. Dr. Rhoden was extremely graceful in terms of, hey, send me footage later on how you're running and let's see if you're trending in the right direction. And it seems my running form has slightly gotten better.
This is your initial contact point, which if you can see on your first video, that 90-degree angle, how far it is in front of your body versus your newest video at the slower pace where it is almost right underneath your body. So that's a much better angle. A little too upright still. I would want you a little bit more forward, so kind of that deadlift kind of angle, but definitely vastly improved. So continuing to work on that paw back.
I'm doing a better job of activating my glutes when I land, but I still need to focus on the pullback when I'm running. So that's something I'm going to continue working on. That wasn't the only test that I did. I was also able to do a metabolic test with Allison, and this involved running at different paces for different periods of time, as well as lactate testing.
What we want to figure out is how efficient is that aerobic system at utilizing the lactic acid that's being produced. Let's go ahead and flip the left hand over for me. It's like the aftermath of a mosquito bite, like when it's too late. 1.8. Look at that.
All right.
Never mind, you're crushing it.
Crushing it. Yeah.
Okay, so that line is without lactic acid. That line is basically now you're producing lactic acid.
Okay.
Over an overwhelming amount.
Yeah.
So the aerobic system is done. If you're really sore, the worst thing to do is just lay around because you're not flushing that lactic acid out. The best thing is to hop on a spin bike and just flush the legs. Everything you do training wise also affects that neuromuscular system. So your heart rate might feel okay, but your neuromuscular system needs to rest and recover. So that's why you want to do something that's not too strenuous on the body as well. What rate say?
177, 6 minutes. I need to do that for 3 hours if I want to do sub 3 hour. Oh God.
And luckily, I did have some metabolic testing a couple months prior to this, and due to my injury, I haven't been able to run. And we realized I am not as fit as I used to be. So it just shows, you can train for something, get to a certain level, and when you stop training, your body's gonna detrain. It's gonna go back to where it was. So that's why I think it's really important to find systems and tools and workout programs that you can do for the rest of your life. Longevity is key, unless you're training for a specific event. That's different.
Felt easy in the beginning. The last 20 seconds got real hard.
What's your heart rate right now?
128. I think one thing I've learned about my body is it takes a long time to warm up. And then when I do, then I'm good. And then I could tell in the last 20 seconds, that's when my lungs were giving up. But my legs overall felt great.
Well, based on that, was our 8:30 pace would be a good that's your cruising pace.
Yeah.
And you could just go.
Really?
Once we did the testing with Allison, we jumped on a call a couple weeks later to really understand the results.
So right here where these meet, that's threshold. Anything to the right, this purple line that shoots up, that's when you really start producing lactic acid and you're less efficient. Anything to the left, that's going to be that lactate recovery. You're going to be more aerobically based. Your most efficient point is right around in here, okay? You're going to be used to training at the faster paces, and so you're going to kick off that marathon and say, hey, I feel great. But with, depletion, substrates, we're going to have to work on training, nutrition, fueling strategies. You're going to have to eat throughout the run and all of that stuff. And that's very, very different than, a 5K, mile, even a 10K type of strategy.
What are the optimal paces for certain types of zone training? What's my optimal heart rates? And I got a plethora of data on how I could potentially lead my training forward. So what are the main 3 things that I learned? One is that I need to do these exercises forever. Right? When I'm warming up, on days off, I want to continue doing these exercises to really remind my brain and my muscles on how to activate when I'm running. 2, slow growth, microdosing. There's no rush in terms of I need to get all this in as soon as possible. It's all about slowly working my way to my final goal. If I try to do too much, too fast, too early, I'm gonna get overwhelmed. It's gonna be frustrating and I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals. So patience and consistency are 2 key components. 3, minute adjustments can have a big impact on how I feel. Right? When you're running over 25,000 steps in a marathon or many, many miles, right? These 10% adjustments in my running form and optimization and where I'm sending this load can actually have a big impact on my body. So hopefully I'll feel less impact in my calves and ankles, and more of it will drive up as I activate my glutes more when I'm running. Now, this is a second in a multi-episode journey as I prep for a marathon. I'm hoping with this new running mechanics and these drills, I'm gonna have less pain, I'm less likely to get injured, and I'll be able to run at a faster speed with a lower heart rate. So I'm hoping to use this as well as Allison's recommendation to find a coach. So if you know any coaches and if you know any way on how to get into the New York City Marathon, please let me know. I'm a little late to planning. If you wanna optimize your running form, go check out the RunLab in Austin, Texas. Let them know Sherman Shares sent you. I really loved how detailed everyone was in understanding my body and being supportive and answering my thousands and thousands of questions. If you want to see the rest of the marathon series, make sure to turn on notifications right down below. Follow me on Insta and Twitter at Sherman Shares. Since you enjoyed this video, go watch my other episodes in this marathon series linked right here. Peace.